Welcome to Programming Rainbow. In this video, we'll be continuing our journey of configuring NvChad, a configuration of Neovim. We will be adding support for the C and C++ programming languages. So if you want to follow along with this video, this is a series of videos. Actually, you want to go back to the prior videos in this series. There will be a playlist on this. I think it's marked as Archlinux because later on there may be other systems that I do. But if you want to follow along with the video series, it's under Archlinux, and it takes you all the way from installing Archlinux to configuring a terminal to getting NvChad and Neovim up and running and configured with Lua. And in this video, we are actually going to be configuring C and C++ for that same configuration. So this all goes on top of itself. So if you want to follow along with this video, you'll want to go to github.com, Programming Rainbow, NvChad, and this is 2.5. So this is made for NvChad 2.5. This is the same GitHub repository we used on the last video on setting up NvChad. We are just adding to the bottom of it. Down here, all the way at the bottom, if we go down, we see a section for C and C++, and this is what we'll be working with today. Okay, so let's take a look at where we are. So here's a terminal. I already have a Neovim set up just the way it was in the last video. So it's already set up with the Lua support and everything that we did in the last video. That's exactly where I'm starting out with right now. So I want to go inside of a C++ or a C. Let's go inside of a C++ project and see what it looks like. And again, I have not configured anything yet for C and C++ in this Neovim. Well, we can see a C project. So I'm working on Minesweeper right now. It's going to come out in Love2D first, but I have a C version of it as well. It's going to be in every language. So let's just look at the code. Okay, so this is pre-code. This is not on the GitHub right now. So all the source. But let's look at, say, the game.c, and let's look at game.h, and let's look at the make file. Okay, so right away when we saw game, it looks pretty good. Syntax highlighting looks amazing. On the header file, it looks pretty good. I mean, we do have lots of whites here, but I think that is just the way it is for there. And in the make file, not so great looking. Okay, so the reason for this is if we were to go back to the game, we know the file type of this. We can echo file type. And the file type down here at the bottom left corner is C. So I believe the original configuration we did automatically, even though we didn't set it up, automatically pulled in treesitter, the syntax highlighting for the C language. Let's take a look at that. And again, this is from the last video. I have not added anything yet. So we go ts install info. Okay, so if we look at this, this is what should have been installed from the last video. So we have bash and we have C right here. So I didn't add C. C is not in my setup, but it's already been added. But if we look down here to C++, it's not added. So when we look at a C++ file here in a second, it will not look as good. And we also looked at a make file. So let's go down here. So if we go down to the make, right here, it's not installed for the make file. So that's why the C file looked nice, but the make file didn't look so nice. Okay, so let's exit out of here. Well, shall we see what this project that I'm working on? Now, I can tell you right now it doesn't function 100% correct. The Lua Love2D version is actually functioning completely correctly. Here, there's some code bugs that I haven't finished off yet, but let's just look at it. We can use make run. Here it is. So if you've ever seen Minesweeper before, this is a little tiny one. Let's make it a little bigger. We got the little one, big, yeah. Oh, maybe that's too big. Let's go to this one. And we have 76 mines. We've been running for 5 seconds. We can have more mines if we want, but let's just look at this. So I'm gonna mark a mine here and here. And I know this is a mine, so I'm just gonna hit it. And we notice that we have flowers here. This is actually the version from Italy. The version from Italy didn't use mines, it used flowers. So we can actually change the theme. So here is the very first theme for Minesweeper. Way back. Here's the next theme. There is the next theme. And there's kind of the default theme, I think. And here's the Italian one. There is another Italian one. here is the monochrome version and the Italian monochrome. So we can use whatever theme we want. And we can also make it more difficult by adding more mines up here. There's 104 mines, 132 mines, 160. That's the size it goes for this. So there's 4 different difficulty settings. So this one has lots of mines in it. Right away I hit a mine. And when we press the mouse button, we see he's like, oh no, wherever I release the mouse button is where it's going to. So if I release it over here in the corner, that's where it went. Now this showing the whole all the mines right here, this is a bug. So again, this is just pre-code, but I just wanted to kind of show you a project running. Let's exit this. So let's look at a C++ project. So we've seen that we have syntax highlighting. We don't have any LSP action happening. Let's go down here. I'll tab in. I'll say G. So right here, this is kind of automatic. This is not really part of the, there's no LSP setup. But if I go here, I don't really, yeah, it's trying to give me a little autocomplete, but it's not from the LSP. If I go to, no, it's not, I can't go to definition or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of this, and let's look at a C++ file. So I have yellow snow set up. That is actually code complete, but I need to set it up for videos, and it'll probably be later, and maybe clean it up, but it's fully functioning. So in here, let's go into game CPP, and we notice right away that the syntax highlighting is pretty rubbish because we did have the C highlighting, we don't have the C++ one. So I just kind of want to show you the difference there. The make file is going to largely look the same because it's just a make file. It still doesn't look good because it's there is no make file highlighting set up either. And let's go over here. If you just want to see this running, say make run. And it's already been compiled before this video, so, and that's it running. Okay, so now we know what it all looks like. Let's set it up to what we want it to be. So let's set up the very first thing. If we look at this, we know that we're talking about Neovim, and we know that specifically we're using NvChad. But the very first thing we want to do is add syntax highlighting, and we know by doing ts install info, all the languages, but you can also see it here in the GitHub. So GitHub, nvim-treesitter, you'll get to this page. We don't really need to look at anything on here. This is going to be really straightforward. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to exit out of this. So if I want to edit the files for Neovim, it's in my local. So it's ~.config.nvim. And I'm just going to launch Neovim in here. What I'm looking for is inside of Lua, inside of configs, we have treesitter. Now, if you're not using my setup, this actually might be in plugins if you're just using stock NvChad. But I know my setup is here, so it's right here. And this is just the list of languages. So the easiest thing to do is just add in what we want. So under bash, since it's kind of alphabetical, I'm just going to add in C, and I should put a comma there. Then we're going to have CMake for people who are using CMake. I'm not. CPP. And we'll put make down here since, again, it would be a little bit more alphabetical. Okay, we know that those all exist. So I'm just going to save this. So I'm using WQA, so that's write it and then quit all. And I'm going to CD back inside of a CPP one because that's what we didn't have syntax highlighting on before. Let's open up make. Now down here at the bottom, we see that treesitter said, uh-oh, I don't have the make one. And also it's going to grab all of them. So it's actually grabbing 4. And now you see Makefile has better highlighting. A lot of the stuff here before was just red and white and no other colors. Now we have actual highlighting going on in our Makefile, which is really nice. So let's open up game CPP, and we see that we have really nice syntax highlighting now. Okay, so we already had highlighting for the C one. I don't have a C Makefile to show you, but you can figure that you're going to have. And here is a header file for C. So we have the highlighting here as well. So that's great. That's our syntax highlighting done. So let's move on to the next thing. The next thing we want is our language server. So the language server that we were going to use is going to be clang-d. And now I don't have clang-d installed. Yeah, clang-d is not installed. I'm going to show you both ways of this because you may have it installed in your system and you may just want to rely on the one you have installed, or you may not have it installed and you just want you want Mason to pull it down for you to use with the editor. So right now I do not have clang installed on my system at all. My other build process I was using GCC, not clang. So I'm just going to close these. We're done here talking about that, talking about NvChad. So Neovim-Treesitter, very simple, whatever the name of your language, and you can even find it on the list here or internally. Look for the thing that you want and add it, very straightforward. So now we're at Neovim-lspconfig, and I believe I've closed it, but I believe they give you an example in NvChad. They give you an example of how to set this up. Yeah, but I basically have that example already set up that we've done before. So if we go over here, I'm going to close out of this. Let's just look at our lspconfig. Okay, so we already have kind of all the examples we need. Basically, anything that we just want to get installed, that means, like, again, if you have clang installed on your system and you don't want it to be installed by Mason, you want to use the system one, you would just not put it here, or you could put it here and actually go into the Mason version over here. For lspconfig, this is the first one, is just the only thing it's doing right up here is passing it off to here. So you could put it here and then go over here and put it on the ignore list if you want. Or you could just not put it there, but maybe just so it looks like everything else, we could put it here. So I'm going to put it here because I don't have it installed on the system. So it's going to be clang. So clang-d, add the comma. So that's going to make sure the package is installed on the system. Now, we need to configure it. So if we just want to use the default configuration, I can drop the name in here, and this will run all the default configurations for us. Lua ls is not using a default one, so it's actually here. But anything that's just using a default one, we can put it here. So I'm not going to use the default, but let's start by using the default. So clang-d. So now when we restart, it should install clang-d, and after it's installed, we should actually have LSP working for the C language, C and C++. So I'm going to go back inside the C++, and I'm going to start it up. And we see right down here at the bottom, it says installing clang-d. That's nice. I'm just going to wait because it's probably going to take a little bit of time. Or we could open up Mason. And I don't think it's done yet. Yeah, it's still going. Now it looks like it's done. So I'm just going to press escape on this. Let's open a C file up. And we're going to be looking down here in the kind of bottom right hand corner. We want to see clang-d as our LSP. Okay, it says LSP clang-d. Beautiful. So if I'm looking at any, let's see here. I want to use a function that's being called somewhere. I'm going to go on this one right here. This is an SDL. This is an SDL function, okay? So I'm going to go to definition, and it actually opened up the SDL mixer header file for me. That's great, right where it's defined. So I'm going to close that. So go to definitions working. Let's try something else. Wait, I'm going to try this and see what happens. Last time when I did the arrow operator, nothing happened until I started typing. So let's see. And now I have all this. This didn't show up before. When I started typing, it was trying to guess, and then it would add some stuff. But when I just had the arrow operator, nothing happened. Okay, well, what about saving file? So I'm going to save the file. And it looks like I have two spaces for my tabs right here. That's what looks like what's going on here. I want to exit out of this before. I'm also want to look at this up here. So this right here, I actually prefer it to look like this. I'm just gonna set it up, and when I save the file, it's gonna change it. So I like it like this, where it's one line per on the class constructor initialization list. I like it to display like this, so I can easily see what's exactly happening. I don't like it all bunched up. I'm just giving you an example. I'm not going to do all of these here. But now when I save it, oh, let's also change to say a 4-space tab, right? So down here in this function body right here, I'm gonna, or sorry, the if block, not the function body. So I'm gonna give the if block a tab and its body 2 tabs. Okay. So now when I save it, what I think is going to happen is this is going to revert back to 2, and these are all going to get mangled up again. I believe that's what's going to happen. I actually don't use the setup this way, so I'm a little bit guessing. Okay, yeah, it did do it. So basically what we see here is we have, and let's just check linting too. Yeah, linting's also working. It's telling me I just made a mistake in my code. So just using the automatic setup of clang-d, I automatically have LSP, I have linting, and I have formatting all in one swoop, just by putting it in and doing nothing else. Just putting the name in 2 places, automatically downloads it and automatically sets it up. Now, I don't like this setup right here, but we know that it's all working. So I'm going to exit out of this, go back in here. And what I want to do is I want formatting to be handled differently. I'm happy with the LSP, I'm happy with the linting, but I want formatting to be different than what it is. So we don't need to go into lint at all. There is another way that you can do linting, not through Mason, but you can install it on your system. And it uses clang-d still, but it uses a separate clang style, I believe. I couldn't get it to work the way I liked it. So the default one that's already built into clang that just automatically works out of the box works just fine for me. So I'm leaving that. But you can use the conform module to use formatting instead of the built-in one. So right now we're just putting clang here and it's running this automatic thing. So it's kind of basically doing this. Let me just, I'm going to create a block and show you exactly what's going on here. So this for loop is going through each name in here, and it's doing something like this. So I'm pasting it here. This for loop is literally just doing this for each name, and the name we want is clang-d. So clang-d, so I could take this out of here altogether, and now this is doing the exact same thing, and it's just doing the defaults. It's just linking up the default stuff that's up here. Nothing amazing is happening. For right now, everything is still exactly default. So I'm still going to have clang for LSP, for linting, and for formatting. Nothing has changed yet. I just have separated it out. This is kind of the default loop. We don't want to make any changes in here. Anything doing the default thing, we just put the name up here and it runs the default. When we're not doing the default, we need to separate it out into its own block like Lua LS is doing, and now we can make our changes to it. And I specifically want to make the changes to the onAttach. So if we look at the changes that I'm making here, for one, I'm telling it to not, I don't want formatting. So this document formatting provider and document range formatting provider false, I'm just disabling the format. So I'm just going to take these two from my code. And what I'm doing is this onAttach is a function, and I'm pulling client out. I'm setting the client attributes, and then I'm running the onAttach with the client. So this one right here, instead of just linking it up, I'm going to say function client on the end. I'm taking this onAttach, and I'm just basically, I want to set to the client attribute. I just want to set two things on it. I'm setting the server capabilities, the document formatting provider to false, and the range formatting provider. So now we should still have all the LSP and all the linting we had before, but we're going to have no formatting now. Let's check that out. And I'm just going to quit this. I'm going to go back into the C code or C++ code. And go back into game. And I'm going to make some formatting changes. So let's add a tab here. Let's take away a tab here. Now I'm going to save it. And it didn't do anything. So we've just lost formatting, right? Let's see if I go here, if I go to definition. Hold on. Oh, did I just mess up LSP then? No, it still says LSP. Now I'm stumped. Let's go down and try the other. We still have the auto completion. Let's check linting. Okay. We go here, we have our floating diagnostics. So I just kind of want to go back and check out because it's not doing what I expect it to do. So I just kind of want to go back and check real quick. So I forgot something here. Let's go back and look at the so right here, this onAttach client. I did not add that in. Let's see if that makes any difference. Okay, there we go. I thought I was in trouble there. Okay, so go to definitions working. Let's see, auto completion's working. That's for the LSP stuff. The linting, if I mess up this, is working. I was going to change something right here. Yeah, I'll do the floating diagnostics. We're good. Okay, so we've lost the ability to format, but everything else is still working correctly. So that was the idea. That's what I wanted to do. So the formatting, so we have the LSP config, and you can read through here. Let's see. It gives some examples. It's in the other page that I closed down for NvChad too, but it's kind of self-explanatory there what we're doing. We're just basically setting two attributes to be false. Now, when we get over here to conform, which is what we're going to use for the formatters, if you look through this, they do have some examples, and I think it's in the long one here. So we've seen this formatter by feature. We've already seen this. and we're going to give the name and the formatter we're using. And the formatter we're going to be using is called clang_format. Let's see if it's on this page. Okay, it's not here. It's not on the page. But we can also see in this block how to change the actual formatters. So that's formatters there. Right here. This is how you actually modify formatters. So whatever the formatter you're using, I think like Lua style, what's all up here. So this Lua style, if we wanted to make modifications to Lua style, we would go down in here. We need to have this table exist. And this would be Lua style right here. And then we would have our changes. So this is kind of, I'm just explaining kind of where I got this information from. And it was a lot of trial and error. So if we look at my notes here, what I'm doing is I'm going to be using clang format, and the actual package to install is clang format like this, which is really confusing because to configure it, it needs the underscore, but the package needs the other one. So it doesn't work. It's broken. So I kind of made a fake language name, C_CPP, just to put this in. So the formatter never actually formats any file, but since it sees the correct package name, it goes ahead and installs the correct package, because if I just use these, it's not going to install them. We'll see that in a moment here. But we're going to add this formatters and clang_format, and we're adding arguments to it. So we're going to prepend the arguments with this one long string here. This whole thing is just a string, and this is what you could put in if you were doing it from the command line, or if you were using a hidden file that would have the setup for your how you wanted clang to format. I don't really like to do that, so I'm just putting it as a string in here, and that's where these are coming from. I should have opened up this clang format. Oh, that's a white page right there. I should have put dark reader in. So let's go to style. So we can put all these different things in style. Let's see if I can find some interesting. But let's look up one of the styles that I put. So this pack construction initializer, let's find this one. So if you, so this is clang.llvm.org, and it's the, I had to Google it to find it, but it's clang formatting style options is what I'm in. So you might have to Google it too if you want to find the page. So this is the option, the parameter that I'm trying to set a value for, the key value pair. So this is the key, and the value I can set is never, and it's going to give me a constructor like this, where the constructor initializer list is one line per the colon, and then each one goes after it, and that's what I actually want. There's some other stuff down here like tab width, things like that. They're all kind of in here, and you can kind of look them up. So this would normally be like, you could put this in another file. Yeah, you could have style and then other commands after it, or it could be in a style file. And I don't want to use a style file. If you want to use one, or you're already using one, you can just do that. The clang format. Here's an example file right here where they're setting the indent width, they're setting the base style, they're setting the language. So this is an example, and it would be a .clang format file is what it would be, a hidden file. I actually just want it to default to what I want it to do. So instead of me making this .clang format, I actually just want it to be part of the configuration for Neovim. So I'm setting it there instead of using this file right here. I don't know if this is big enough. So the file I'm talking about is this thing right here. If you're a C++ programmer, programmer, you've already come across this. I actually just don't want to use that. I just want it to be set. So I'm going to show you what I'm setting, but if you're using this file, the same settings could also be there as well. So what I'm going to use is these settings here. So I'm going to kind of show you what this looks like, and then we'll walk through what these settings are. So in here, so we got to change conform. So the first thing we can do is add, and for C, we can equal, and we need to do it for C and C++. So we can say clang, and there's no D on this one. It's just clang format. And for C++, the same thing. Now the problem with this is it understands this. This is the correct name for it. But the other module over here, the mason-conform one that tries to automatically download the packages, it's the wrong package name for that one. And this is a bug that's been brought up and it's claimed to have been fixed, but it's not. So basically, to overcome this, I just make a fake language name and put the correct module name in it. And we'll see that in a second here. But so this is going to say that I want for files that are of type C, I want to use clang format. And for files that are type C++, I want to use clang format. Now we have this formatters by feature that we've already seen in the example. We need to add the actual formatters, this table right here. So this formatters table here, we can have entries for each of these up here that we want to modify. So if I wanted to modify style Lua, I could have another one down here underneath it that was style Lua. But the only one I need to modify is the clang underscore format. Style Lua is actually over here in this .style Lua toml file. But and that's how they did it for there. For here, I want it here. And just understand that this whole thing, these multiple lines here, is one string. So I can't just have them on separate lines. I have to use this backspace because it needs to be seen as a single string. So this backslash, it tells the line that the line is wrapping around. So this whole thing, just understand this whole thing right here, these are not entries to a table. This is one long string. This string is being added to the arguments that are being passed into clang format, okay? And we find all these arguments on the page that we were just at. So we have indent width equals 4. So I want to indent everything as 4, not 2. Tab width is 4. Use tabs, never, because I want it to be spaces. And then this access modifier, well let's remove some of these and see what it looks like, okay? So I'm going to, let's just do the spacing. Now, I tried to comment this out, but it says it's not commented out because, again, this is a string. So what I'm going to do is right here, I'm going to end this string. And I'm just going to put a comma on the outside. Do you see that? So remember, this whole thing right here is one string. So all I'm doing is I'm basically saying I want my tab widths to be 4, I want my indent to be 4, and I don't want tabs to be tabs. I want them to be spaces. Now we're going to see something else. We're going to see that when I open it up, clang format is not going to be installed. Okay, so let's do that first. Before I even change directories, I'm just going to reopen it. Reopen it, nothing happened down here, okay? So the reason why nothing happened is conform is confused. This over here where we set up where mason-conform automatically installs things, it wants to install it, but the package name is wrong. So basically I just kind of invented a name for a file type, C_CPP. I don't think any file type is actually that, but I could be wrong. And I'm just going to give it the real name so that mason-conform actually can download the correct package with Mason. So it's going to be clang and minus format. So that's just kind of a hack. I just put that's a hack. This is a workaround to get it to work. So now when I start it up, it should automatically, Mason should grab this package. So the package name is this, but when we're configuring it, it's an underscore. Okay, now we see installing clang format down here at the bottom. So I'm going to let it finish, and then we'll go look at the... So it's done, so I'm going to go back inside of, what was it, the C++. Okay, now the only thing we changed, I didn't change to deal with this, to make this single file. The only thing we changed is the 4 spaces. And I actually want a, let's see here. Okay, so right here, this hasn't been saved yet. So this is how it should look at the end, the way I want it to look. And we have this class, and we have this public is 4 spaces in, and then the actual items inside of here are 4 more spaces in, okay? So if I save on this right now, it's not going to look like this. Even though I'm using 4 spaces, it's not going to work like that. It didn't do that at all. Okay, so that one is still using 2 spaces. We didn't get 4 spaces at all. Let's go over to this file. Let's try it here. So we did get 4 spaces here, okay? We got 4 spaces here, but not this. But in the header file, we kind of didn't. And what it is it is giving us 4 spaces, but it's only giving us 2 to the public and to the private. I don't like this. I don't like how this looks at all to me. So I'm going to fix that. So in here, this access modifier offset and this indent access modifiers to true, if we were to add these now, and I remember it's a string, so I have to end the string off. Okay, so that should be one long string again, hopefully. So we were looking at the header file that wasn't right with the class. Okay, so we have this 2 spaces to public and then 2 spaces to the game constructor. I'm going to save it, and it's pushed it out. Now, if I set it to 0, game will be over here and public will be over here. But because I put the access modifier to true, it's actually moving the public and private as well. So they get moved over. I prefer the way this looks because if this is indented back, I can't just by looking at it at a glance really fast understand that these are private, or these are public and these are private. You know, I just want to see that in an instant, just looking at it. So this is my preference, but that's how I'm doing it, and that's the 2 things that are doing it. So if we look back again, so this access modifier offset 0, that would put the private and the public over on the left side. This indent access modifier to true, that lets the whole thing, that lets it gets indented as well. The access modifier gets indented. So basically I'm saying there's no special offset for the access modifier, but it is also needs to be indented correctly. Now this very bottom one here, this pack constructor initializers, this is the one that puts everything down in a list the way I like. So let's check that out. go into here real quick. I'm just going to save it, make sure nothing's changed. And now we go to here, and we have these. These are going to be cascaded now. Okay? It's much easier just to find the thing at a glance that I'm looking for. I don't have to, oh, is it two short ones and it was hidden in there? No, it's just cascades down. Looks great. So that's the whole thing. That's my whole 4 space tabs, no tabs, but everything's 4 spaces. The access modifiers are also tabbed in. The initializer list are cascaded downwards. So that's the story with all of that. Now, again, you don't have to do any of that. You can just use the default CLang without doing anything, and it already has formatting. So that's the only 3 files we had to change, which is just treesitter, very simple thing. We're just adding C, CMake, C++, and make down here. Again, I don't know if you use CMake. I just put it there for people who may or may not use it. In here, we're just adding CLang D. Again, this right here is just saying, hey, I need to install. It's not configuring it. The default configure would happen here. If you don't want to change anything, just put it in there as a string, and that will use this automatic one. But since I personally am changing the formatting and I want to disable the formatter, we are doing almost a default one, but we're just changing this one part right here. And that's just to disable the formatting for CLang D. And we're still using actually CLang to format, but we're using it separately. So that's that one. And we didn't do anything in lint because CLang is already doing the linting just fine for us. And here, this one here is just a made up make-believe name that I'm just using. So mason-conform downloads CLang format. So that's just a hack. These 2 right here are the actual formatters for C and C++, and they're just using the same one, and this is the configuration. If you don't want to use my configuration, or you don't want to use any configuration, you can just delete this whole block here. If you have another language that you're configuring, you're going to add that you need to modify. You're going to add another table here. So it'd still be inside this formatters table, but you would add another table with the name of that that language, that whatever it is up here. Like style Lua, if I wanted to style Lua one, I would create a new table that was style Lua. I would do that. And comma. And then I would make the changes. I think prepend args is the one that you're probably looking for as well. So that is, again, just how we're kind of modifying CLang-D. Now, what do you do if you have it installed on your system and you don't want to use you don't want Mason to install CLang format, and you don't want Mason to install CLang D because you already have it on your system. So what you could do is on conform, let me save this. On conform, you could just go to mason-conform, and you could just put it on the list. Right here. Or since this one's a hack, you could just not have the hack name, but for any other package, you would just put it here. So it's still being configured, but it's not being downloaded. And also for mason-lspconfig, you could just put it on the ignore list here, which is CLang D. Okay. Let's see, what was I don't know if this is the right command. Okay. Okay, so I've removed CLang D and CLang format. They're not on the system. I'm still trying to configure and use them, so it's not going to like this at all. It's going to complain. But my Mason-conform and Mason-LSP is not going to automatically install these, right? So let's restart. So nothing's happening down here, okay? Let's go into a C++ file. So I'm in here. Well, it's not a file I need to be in, sorry. So look at right away it's complaining. Spawning language server, you know, clang-d is not there. Okay, now when I try to save it, it's same thing, formatter unavailable. So I should be able to fix both of these issues by just installing clang-d. System-wide, not through Neovim. Let's see, clang. I think it's just called clang is the package. And I believe it has the formatter in it as well. I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out here in a second. Because you might have this installed on your system anyway because you're using it to compile. So let's open up a C++ file. Okay, it's not complaining. It says our LSP is clang-d. That's good. Let's try messing up the formatting. And see if it saves. And it did. So just for Archlinux, just this clang package will give you clang-d and clang format. So if you have those on your system, you don't need to have it installed. You can put them on the ignore list. And again, the way I set it up is you actually don't need to, specifically for this language, you don't need to put either one of them on the ignore list because of the way it is. But that's just showing you how any other language would work. But if we look in here on conform, I had to run a hack just to get it to install. So if I just didn't put that hack line there, I wouldn't even need to tell it to not install this package. And in LSP, well, this is already a hack in itself. This doesn't actually configure anything. This is just names that are then pulled out by Mason to install. So actually, I don't even need to have that name there to begin with. That's just to make it modular, to make it look the same on all three packages. So I could have just not put it here, but still had the configuration down here or in the default configure. You know, either one of these to configure it, but this here is just for installing purposes. So even though I put them on the ignore list, I actually didn't need to. It depends on the language and what you're doing, but I just kind of want to let everybody know what's happening there. Lastly, what I want to show is that I've already, let me wipe my file out. I'm not going to have it reinstall. I'm just going to wipe out my configuration file. So if I go over to GitHub and I just copy the URL, I'm going to remove I'm going to remove just the config, not all the other stuff. Now I'm re-downloading the config from my own repository. So I didn't delete the other files, so everything else is still in place. It's just the config. I just want to show you what the config looks like right now. So if we went into configs, treesitters, I've already added the things that you would need for C, but I didn't turn them on. For people who are not C developers, they maybe don't want these things being downloaded and installed on the system if they don't need them. So basically what I did is I just added them and commented them out. And then in conform, I've added the names and the hack, and I've added the config, but I commented it out. So it's not intrusive to people that don't need these. But if you want to use them and you want to use the way that I configured it, you can just uncomment them and you're good. Or you can change it to however you want. And let's see, that's conform. And I've done the same thing here. I put it here and commented it out, and then I put down here the config for it and commented it out. So basically, if you just use the default one I'm using, it's all there and it's just commented out, so you can just enable or disable it if you want, if you don't want to type in all the stuff that I've just shown in this video. But yeah, that's just kind of all the information. So hopefully that helps everyone with C and C++. And yeah, I think that's going to be about it. So I hope that was entertaining again, or educational. Again, this builds on top of other videos that I've already done. So specifically the video directly before this one, that's NvChad and Neovim, my configuration is all based on that video before this. So I think that's going to be everything. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.